Hey guys, I'm Miranda Moon. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the case of Sylvia Likens, which if you haven't heard of this case, you might recognize it from the movies An American Crime and The Girl Next Door. It was a highly publicized case. It's highly detailed, so this video might be broken up into several pieces. Let's get into it. Sylvia Likens was born on January 3rd, 1949 in Lebanon, Indiana. She was the third of 5 children to a pair of carnies, basically, Lester Likens and Betty Francis. Her younger sister, Jenny, had polio at some point, which resulted in her having to wear a metal leg brace for a long time on one of her legs. I think in The Girl Next Door, Jenny had a brace on both of her legs, but that's inaccurate as she only wore it on one. The parents were kind of nomads because their job required them to move around a lot because the carnivals travel, obviously. They primarily just sold concessions at carnival stands, and they took the girls along with them. Their parents became kind of concerned for their well-being because there was the unsavory characters in the carnival circuit, and they didn't want that to affect them. They were worried about their education suffering, so a lot of the times they would stay with their grandmother. In the summer of 1965, Sylvia and Jenny lived with their parents in Indianapolis. After that, their mother was arrested for shoplifting, and she was put in jail. Their father met Gertrude Benicheski. Now, Gertrude's story. She was born on September 19th, 1928 to a Molly Myrtle and Hugh Van Fossen. She was the third of 6 kids herself. In October 1939, she witnessed the death of her father from a sudden heart attack. Gertrude did not have an easy life growing up due to that. She dropped out of high school when she was 16 to marry a man named John Bencheski. I can't say that name. They had 4 kids together. He was very abusive to her, had a really bad temper. They stayed together 10 years with these 4 children until they divorced. After she divorced, she married another man named Edward Guthrie. They were only together for 3 months before they got divorced. After that divorce, she ended up remarrying her first husband, John, and then they had 2 more kids while they were together. They split again in 1963. A few weeks after her 3rd divorce, she got into a relationship with a 22-year-old man named Dennis Wright. He was abusive as well throughout their relationship. They also had a child together. A week after the baby was born, he took off, leaving Gertrude alone with all of these kids, pretty much destitute. In 1965, Gertrude lived alone with her 7 kids ranging in age between 17 and only a few months old. The baby was only a few months old. The kids did odd jobs around the neighborhood to pay for living, basically, because Gertrude was very depressed. She was in poor health. She was 5'6", and she only weighed 100 pounds. She was a chain smoker as well, so she was pretty asthmatic, and she just couldn't work. So when Lester came about with the 2 girls, Sylvia and Jenny, and offered her $20 a week to let the girls stay with her and have her take care of the girls, she accepted it because she needed the money. Things weren't easy for her. $20 a week would have helped out. It wasn't long before the checks failed to come. Gertrude seemed to take out her anger on the 2 girls. She began abusing them, beating them with a 1/4-inch thick paddle on their bare bottoms. She would make comments such as, "I took care of you 2 little bitches for nothing." In late August, it was reported that the girls were beaten approximately 15 times with the 1/4-inch thick paddle. After Paula, I think that's Gertrude's oldest daughter, she accused them of eating too much food at a church function. By the middle of late August, all of the abuse was suffered by Sylvia. We don't know if she took the abuse to protect her little sister, or if Gertrude just hated Sylvia more. She was jealous of her beauty and how exuberant she was. She was a very lively girl. As she was well liked, everybody liked her. Gertrude seemed to be jealous of that. Sylvia's abuse began as beatings. She began to refuse to feed her. She was humiliated after she admitted that she had a boyfriend. Paula was also jealous of Sylvia. She began participating in the beatings because she was jealous of her. Paula was 3 months pregnant at the time. She accused Sylvia of being pregnant and began to kick her in her private areas, even though she herself was 3 months pregnant. The one incident that is most widely talked about is the hot dog incident. They were at dinner. Sylvia was forced by Gertrude, Paula, and a neighborhood boy named Randy Lepper to eat a hot dog that was overloaded with condiments, which would be like, mustard, ketchup, relish, stuff like that. She was forced to eat this hot dog and then she threw up. They forced her to eat what she had thrown up. Paula had beaten Sylvia so severely at one point that Paula broke her wrist and had to wear a cast. When she was beating her, it was focused mainly on her face and her teeth. Therefore, it forced her hand and broke her wrist. Or her wrist had a cast on it, and after that, she just used the cast to beat her more because it was a harder object and it made more of an impact than just a bare hand. Gertrude often accused Sylvia of being promiscuous around the neighborhood, and she would go off on these just demented sermons about sexuality and women. It seemed like she just hated women. A boy named Coy Hubbard, a boy from the neighborhood, would bring some of his classmates over to the Benicheski house with the encouragement of Gertrude, would help abuse Sylvia. They would cut her, hit her, burn her. They burned her with cigarettes over 100 times. The girls were scared to reach out to anybody in the fear of, if they got caught reaching out to anybody in authority, their parents, the police, a teacher, anything, that they would face repercussions from Gertrude. So they were terrified to try to get help. Sylvia was accused of gluttony after she heard of an encounter. Diana Shoemaker had given her a sandwich when she saw her out in public. For that, Gertrude choked her and hit her. They gave her a scalding hot bath to cleanse her of sin. Gertrude grabbed her hair repeatedly, bashing her head against the tub when she would pass out to revive her. Not long after this time, a neighborhood boy would tell his father, and the father would make a call to the school to report a girl with open sores all over her body. Sylvia had not been to school in several days, so the school nurse went to the Benicheski house to investigate. Gertrude claimed that Sylvia ran away from her home the previous week and she had no idea where she was. She was sure to add in that Sylvia was a troubled girl and a bad influence on her girls and her little sister Jenny. They didn't look into the matter again. Eventually, the severity and the brutality of the abuse caused Sylvia to become incontinent. She was not allowed to go to the bathroom, so she was left to pee on herself, and then she was punished for peeing on herself. Gertrude then threw Sylvia into the basement and tied her up. She was left in the dark, naked, and alone. She would charge the neighborhood kids a nickel to come in and burn, beat, and humiliate Sylvia. After that, they would place her in a scalding hot tub and rub salt into her wounds. On October 22nd, the youngest boy, 12-year-old John, Gertrude's son, offered Sylvia a scalding hot bowl of soup to eat with her hands, which she did, resulting in her burning her fingers. Gertrude eventually let Sylvia sleep in the upper part of the house again if she could learn how to control her bladder. But that night, before they went to bed, she convinced Jenny, her little sister, to bring her a glass of water. Subsequently, the next morning, Gertrude found that she had wet herself. As punishment, she was forced to insert a Coke bottle in a place that you do not want a Coke bottle. She threw her back into the basement. After that, I know I'm saying after that a lot, but Sylvia made her come into the kitchen and stripped her clothes off and claimed, "You are branding my daughters, so I must brand you." And she used a hot needle to brand "I'm a prostitute and proud of it" on her stomach. She ended up not being able to finish it, so she made a 14-year-old boy named Ricky Hobbs finish branding Sylvia. The next day, Gertrude made Sylvia write a letter to her parents that would basically frame a group of neighborhood boys for mutilating her, claiming that she had agreed to have sexual relations with them, and they took advantage of this and absolutely mutilated her because Gertrude was going to take her into the woods and leave her to die. Sylvia overheard this, and she gathered up every last bit of motivation, strength that she had left, and she tried to escape. She didn't get very far, and Gertrude found her, threw her back into the basement, and hit her in the head with a broomstick before she passed out. That night she screamed and screamed, knowing that she was eventually going to let her die. She screamed and screamed and screamed and tried to get neighbors' attention, and the neighbors actually heard her. It later came out after the trial, or during the trial, that the neighbors had heard her screaming. It ceased around 3 a.m., so they felt no need to call it in. In the afternoon of October 26th, they all gathered in the basement for another torture session. Sylvia was delirious, and you could tell she was very close to death. She was malnourished, she wasn't getting water, she wasn't getting food, she was emaciated, she was injured, she was completely just broken down. She was sprayed with a water hose in an attempt to clean her. Sylvia then again tried to escape the basement, but she collapsed before she got to the stairs. Gertrude stomped on her head and stood there looking at her. Stephanie Baniszewski decided to give her a warm bath, but Sylvia quit breathing before they even made it out of the basement. Gertrude simply stated to everyone that she was faking it. I'm going to end this here, guys, because we have a lot more to get into. The next video will probably be primarily about the trial and all of that. It's a very, very messed up story, and there's a lot of messed up details that I honestly couldn't say. But it's a really interesting case. The next video will, like I said, focus more on the trial. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like it, subscribe, like, comment, hit the little notification bell so you get alerted whenever I upload a video. That I'm still in the trial and error phase of my channel. I have new equipment coming soon, so hopefully the quality will get a little bit better. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.